want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited, and I know you'll be excited too, because some of the solutions that you've been looking for, I will provide it unto you, most especially concerning WAEC and NECO marking scheme. Most of you don't understand how marks are allocated to questions. So in answering question, you eliminate some steps which are wrong, because in every questions the steps marks are allocated to them. So the reason why I said I'm excited, and I know you'll be excited, is because I've been privileged to be marking WAEC and NECO, and I want to share with you the marking scheme of NECO. First of all, 2021 NECO Physics 2, the final marking scheme that was used to mark the NECO that was run this year. So follow me closely as I'll be sharing with you the important places that you need to know in answering Physics 2 question, either NECO or WAEC. It will both help you. I have so many marking scheme. I just took it upon myself to begin to put it in a video format. You see how I will help those that have been struggling to write NECO. Some people 5 times, 6 times. It's not that they don't know it, it's because they don't understand how NECO marks their exam. So please, if you have not subscribed, do well to subscribe and click the notification button there, the bell sign there, so that whenever I upload a new video, you will see. This is just a part 1 of so many videos concerning this marking scheme that I will be doing. I will explain to you those things that is very needful for you, especially in answering this question, Physics 2. Now let's move further. The first question, if you have your question paper, you can remove it and be cross-checking the questions that I'll be pointing to, or we'll be discussing. First question is question 1. The A part, it has Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2. Now the Roman numeral 1 said, mention a device used for detecting fault in electric circuit. Roman numeral 2, mention one feature of the named device in Roman numeral 1 above. Now the answer to this question is simple continuity tester, or avometer, or multimeter. The mark that is allocated to this is just half. You see, the mark that is allocated to it is what is just half. Now you see 2 options are there. One of it is what they ask you to mention. If you mention simple continuity tester, you are correct. If you mention a continuity tester, you are correct, you have your half mark. If you mention avometer or multimeter, you are correct. But if you just write a tester, you are wrong, because we have so many testers. So what differentiates it with other tester is the continuity. So if you mention continuity tester, you are correct. If you mention just a tester, you are wrong, and it's just half mark that is allocated to Roman numeral 1 question. Now let's go to Roman numeral 2. Mention one feature of the named device in Roman numeral 1. Now look at it. We have 4 features of it: connecting wires, we have the bulb, we have cell, we have pointer, that is for the analog multimeter, and we have digital display for the digital multimeter. So what is required here is just one of the feature, and the mark allocated to it just half. When you just write, either you write connecting wires, or bulb, or cell, or pointer, any of them, if you just write, you will be entitled to what? 1 mark, and you are correct, right? but I saw some people putting okay ability to to detect faults in some of the ones I mark. Some just out of the point, and I failed them because that's not what is required from the marking scheme. Now let's go to the B aspect of question 1. And the B aspect said distinguish between simple and compound microscope. We have so many differences between simple and compound microscope. These are just field that is required of you to mention. Now, one key thing that I would like you to know, especially in answering such question that they ask you to distinguish, differentiate, maybe advantage and disadvantage. This is what is required of you. If you're writing one, let the next one correspond to it. Like for example, this one, the first one said concerning the simple microscope. Now we said it has one converging lens. For the compound microscope, it has two converging lens. Now if you write it has one converging lens and you come and write it has high magnification, you are wrong, because it's not appearing the same. You are writing something different. The condition to mark right is that we should accept any other valid differences that is not stated here, and any correctly match pairs, that is it has one converging lens. The compound microscope, it has two converging lenses. Correct. It has what? Low magnification, has high magnification. Final images is erected and final images is inverted. Any correct ones, then you mark it, you gift the person the 2 marks. But if you write final images is erected and you follow it with it has two converging lens, you are wrong, you see. So these are some of the mistakes that when I saw the students, I'll just pity them. Maybe some of them were trying to copy, so in their mind they will be like, okay, let me not copy the same thing that was provided onto me, you see, and they made a mistake, right? Okay, we have so many differences. Okay, now let's go to the C aspect of question. Now the C aspect said is a calculation. Is a calculation. The question said the mass of a copper deposited on the cathode of a copper voltmeter is 450 grams when a current passes through it for 25 minutes. They now ask us calculate the current passed through the voltmeter. We all know where this example is coming from. We are given electrochemical equivalence of the copper as well, 3.3 times 10 raised to the minus 4 gram per column, I mean. Okay, let's look at the solution. It's very important, and this is the first calculation we are looking at, so please pay attention so that you know where marks are allocated in our solution. First thing is you write your formula. The formula mass is equal to what? I and T. The Z here is what? Our electrochemical equivalent of the copper. Our I there is what? The current, and our T there is the time. The M there is mass. So what they ask us to calculate is what? The current that passed through, which is our I. Look at the data given there. Right now, you see, the first thing in answering any physics calculation is to write the formula. All the formulas carry 1 mark. That is, the first formula carry 1 mark. 1 mark is allocated to every formulas correctly written. So if you write the correct formula, you have 1 mark. This data given here, they don't have any mark that is allocated to them. Having written the formula, the next thing is make the subject formula what you are asked to calculate, which is our current. How do we make the subject formula? Just divide both sides by z and t to allow your eye to stand alone. There is no mark that is allocated in this simplification. Let's see where mark is allocated. Now when you cancel out, I will be equal to m all over zt. Now the correct substitution is what? Your mass. Now look at where mark is allocated again. You see, the first way is the formula. The second thing is correct substitution. If you substitute very well, correctly substituted, you have half mark is allocated to correct substitution. So the final answer is 9.1 times 10 raised to power 2 see, and half mark is also allocated to final answer. So you see, steps in calculation is what? Your formula, correct substitution, and your final answer. Now some people normally miss the final answer, the mark allocated to the final answer, because they don't put the unit. Unit is important. If you write 9.1 times 10 raised to power 2 and leave it here, your final answer is wrong. So unit is very, very important. Now let's look at the total answer allocated to question 1. The total answer allocated, the total mark allocated to question 1 is 5 marks. That is why they make it compulsory. So if you answer like this, you have your 5 marks correctly for question 1. Are we all together? Now let's look at the question 2. Question 2 says a wooden block was placed on an inclined plane as shown below. Look at our diagram. The same thing you have in your question paper. Look at the diagram there, and we know where this question is coming from friction, inclined plane. Now they said if it is just about to slide, show that the ratio of the sine of an angle alpha to the cosine of an angle alpha is the same as the coefficient of friction. Now let's look at our solution. Let's see where marks are allocated. Okay, correct formula. Remember, correct formula. Okay, now let me explain something to you. Okay, this is not a video to be explaining or to be teaching concerning friction. Now we have videos that are coming up on topics, most especially the Federal Ministry of Education approved curriculum for physics in Nigeria. Okay, now let me explain something. Now this inclined plane, you will see that there are forces that are acting on an object that is falling down an inclined plane. From the diagram there, we have the perpendicular and the horizontal forces. Now if you look at it, the F there, the direction of the force is what? Is okay. If you look at the inclined plane there, you notice that we have the parallel and the perpendicular forces that is acting on an object that is falling down the inclined plane. The direction of the force F that is acting is parallel to the inclined plane, and the direction of our R is what is perpendicular to the inclined plane. Now you remember the force from first resolution, from resolving force to their component. The horizontal, or the one acting parallel to the perpendicular, is what F. parallel to the plane, is F equal to what? mg sine alpha, and the one acting perpendicular, which is our r, is equals to mg cos alpha. If you write like this, all of them entitled to what? Half marks, which give us 1 mark. Now from our coefficient of friction is equal to our F all over R, and from there, what is the mark allocated to this formula is 1 mark. You see. Now correct substitution, what will you have? You have your half mark for correct substitution, right? Now you notice that mg and mg are common, so mg will cancel out. Our coefficient of friction will be what? Sine alpha cos alpha. What mark is allocated is half, and this is your final answer. But I went further to prove it. You know that sine alpha and cos alpha is equal to what? Tan alpha. So if you write tan alpha as your final answer, is still correct, they will mark you correct. Now the total, okay, for the final answer, yes, is half. Now the total mark allocated to this particular question 2 is just 2 marks, right? Let's move further to 3. Question is, what is range of a projectile? And in answering theory question, we need to be very careful too. There are some key points that they must be there. And the definition of the range is what? Is the horizontal distance from the point of projection to the point where the projectile hits the projection plane. This is what is required. Anything outside this, you are wrong, right? The key point that must be there is the horizontal distance, because you remember maximum height, so it has distance. So what differentiates them is the horizontal distance and the vertical distance. So if you define it as the distance from the point of projectile, no, you are wrong, right? Okay, the mark that is allocated to it is 1. There is no half mark. It's complete 1 or nothing else. Okay, the B aspect of it: an athlete threw a javelin with a velocity of 12 meters per second. If the javelin hits the ground after 1.5 seconds, calculate its angle projection. And our G is given, which is acceleration due to gravity, as 10 meters per second square. Now let's look at it. Look at the data given. We have our time of flight is what? 1.5. Our velocity is 12. That's our initial velocity, and our G is 10. Now he asks us to calculate the angle. You remember time of flight is equal to what? The formula is 2u sine theta all over g. Correct formula is always 1. Then correct substitution. But before we substitute, you must have to make theta the subject formula, that is sine theta, before you now find the sine inverse over theta. Okay, by now you do cross multiplication, you have this. What will cancel out? 2u will cancel 2u. You divide both sides by 2u. Now 2u will cancel 2u. We have sine theta will be there. Our sine theta now will be what? Tg divided by 2u. Then our correct substitution, now this is where our marks lies, which is equal to what? Half marks. Correct substitution is half marks. Now when you do that, you are going to have sine theta equal to 0.625. Then you now find the sine inverse, which will give us our theta. So our theta is equal to 38.7 degree, and this is half mark allocated to it. If you write 38.7, you are wrong. The unit must be there. Okay, and the total marks allocated to question 3 is 3 marks, right? Okay, let's move to question 4. Mention two bodies possessing kinetic energy. Mention two bodies that are possessing kinetic energy. So we are going to mention two. We have plenty of them. We have a moving car, a fruit falling from its trees, throwing stones, fire bullets, and so many others. When you mention two, that is one is half, another one is half. So when you mention two, you have your 1 mark. Okay, the B part of it. A waterfall is 108 meter high. Calculate the difference in temperature of the water above and below the waterfall. Our G is equal to 10 meter per second square. Okay, this is what is given there. You know where the question is coming from. Now look at the two formulas that are needed. Either of them is correct because the mass of the water is the same. So it's the same thing by doing it. So we have M will cancel M. What will you have there is GH equals to C delta theta. Okay, now what they ask us to find is they calculate the difference in temperature of the water. So you make the change in temperature the subject formula. Okay, when you cancel out, this is what you have. Then correct substitution is half marks, and your final answer, this is your final answer, is also half mark. This is where the marking scheme stop, because the value for C, that is the specific capacity of water, is not given. Had it been given, then you will now move further as this, but it's not given. So if you stop here, you are correct. If you proceed here, you are correct, but there is no mark allocated to them, right? So use every value that is given to you. If no value is given to you, do not go and manufacture your own value. Do you know what they are doing, right? Total mark allocated to this is also 3 marks. Okay, question 5. What is vaporization? Vaporization is the process in which a substance changes from liquid state to gaseous state at constant / or same temperature. You see, the key thing here is constant or same temperature. If you define it as a process in which a substance changes from liquid state to gaseous state and stop there, you are wrong. It must be either at constant temperature or at the same temperature, and the mark allocated to it is 2. You see, so if you do not indicate constant temperature or same temperature, you are wrong. It's not in, nobody will give you 1. Is 0. The B part of it, state 1 effect of increase in heat for a temperature range of 50 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius on plastic and on iron. Okay, that one on plastic is melt, change in density, that is the increase in heat for a temperature ranges of 50 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. On plastic, it causes melting and change in density. Mention 1. If you mention 1, you are entitled to half marks. Then for iron, it causes expansion, change in volume, change in electrical resistance, and change in density. Also, if you mention 1 of it, you have your 1 mark. Total mark allocated to this question 5 is what? Is 3 marks also. Okay, so you see, from this question 1 to 5, now you can know, if you've written YA, you can see some of the mistake that you did, or if you are yet to, that is, if you are yet to write NECO, you can take correction now so that you will not fail your NECO. Okay, I think I will stop here for this part 1. I have series of them that I'll be uploading for this part 1, I will stop at question 5 so that you can do well to go over it again. Please and please do well to subscribe if you have not. Please and please do well to subscribe. Share the videos with your friends that are preparing for while. Please let it be as a gift. You are helping someone with this. Thank you so much. See you next. At the end of this, I will upload a PDF format of this marking scheme for you so that you can download. I will upload a link so that you can download also and be looking at it and practicing it more. Thank you.